Hey there, it's Rusty Nelson, your college art professor, and I have another midweek watercolor demo for you that I recorded up at the university for my Intro to Watercolor class. We were working with symmetry and reflections on a glass bottle, so let's take a look, and by the end of this video, you're going to be a master at both. So here we go. I wanted to kind of just quickly give you a brief overview, an easy way to kind of capture symmetry. And it's a fairly easy process. You just, especially with bottles, all right, bottles are easy because you can just kind of get in here and kind of create a series of concentric rings and just start building out and trying to get that overall shape happening. And you just keep kind of going over it, all right? And even this process, it's starting to give you a sense of volume just because of those concentric rings, all right? Now, this isn't perfect. All right, but it does give you something you can react to when you start building out the actual, there we go. All right, so you're just going to sit here and build it out using those rings as a basic guide, all right? All right, and come around like this. All right, so we got that little knot of rope right in through here. And it even kind of goes up a little bit. You just kind of pop your, you can actually use those rings as maybe an indication right there like that. All right. And then it starts building out. So you're kind of using those rings as a measuring device as to whether or not you're staying proportional. All right. So watch your angles. Get everything to flow out just about the way you want it. And I typically will work back and forth when trying to build something like this. All right. And then again, watch your angles. And as you get down towards the bottom, it rounds out again, and then you get the bottom portion of it. All right. Then you can come back in, come around, and then start adding in all the fun little details for the reflections, the shadows, right? There's another one right in through here, comes down across the way, right? All right, so that's essentially a quick tutorial. And looky there, I got to get this one pulled out a little further. So if it's not quite proportional, just keep it working on it and adjust it until it does look proportional. And you can see I had a lot of structural marks right here. So now I'm just coming in and rounding them off a little bit, kind of kicking back, looking at it, make sure I've got everything functioning as a proportional. I've got a little, looks like a little issue on my right side is higher than the left side. All right. So I could either lower the right side or raise the right side a little bit. All right. So, and then when you're transferring it onto watercolor paper, you just kind of come back in and erase the bold lines and outlines on it as needed. All right. And there is a soft color in the background. Actually, I have some colors over here on my old palette in about the right consistency. I'll just grab some of those. A nice kind of a gray color. All right. Very thin because it doesn't have to be very thick. And we're just going to block in some of that background. Okay. Doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be even. Just has to look good, right? Remember, it dries lighter than it looks as you put it on to the paper. All right, and down here, it actually fades out pretty lightly down towards the ground. I'll go ahead and bring it down here as well. And I'm going to get just a smidge of the Viridian green, intensify that a little bit, and I'm just going to hit this shadow while it's still wet. There's our wet on wet right there. And we just popped in a little dab of the shadow. See, it's pretty faint. It's got a nice transition, pretty bluish green over here. It's got a little more of a yellow cast over here. It looks pretty pretty hot on screen. All right, so this is what is this? This looks like it might be this might be some Strathmore, I think, paper. And you can see the sheen is going away. It's still right over here on the corner of this one. It's drier over here. So I think we can go ahead and mix up a little more of a green. That's appropriate. I'm going to mix in some of this yellow ochre into the greens. I put a little viridian and then that grass green out there. I'm going to try to get this orange or yellowish green mixture, probably about a coffee consistency. And we're going to come in here and lay down the base color on the jug. All right. I'm going to protect that little highlight right there. Okay. Right there. I'm going to skip over the cloth on it. I'm going to work around. I'm going to paint around the highlight there. And I will have to erase some of that. I'm going to thin this out just a little bit right through here. All right. Then we'll come in. We'll lay down that base color throughout. And, ooh, looky there. Is that terrible? There we go. I wanted that. There we go. We're just going to create a little volume. We're going to hit that side right in there with some more saturated color later on. All right. We got some good colors up there. I'm going to throw that out there as well. Okay, there we go. So we are adding, I want to get some of it out here on the shadow. I already got a little boo-boo out there, so that's going to work to our benefit. All right, and as that's drying, I'm going to get some of this cerulean blue, get a little dab of that green. I'm going to come right along this edge right here. Right there, I'm going to feather that out. I'm going to throw some of it over here as well on this side and maybe right up here. Let's get more blue. All right, so that's stage one. We just color blocked everything. And I'm going to get a little more of it down here as well. All right, so that just needs to dry for a few minutes. And while that is, I'm going to grab some of this yellow ochre. I'm going to grab a little bit of the burnt sienna right here. All right, we're going to paint that rope right up here. And I'm just going to drop it in on this side of it. All right. And then we'll just feather it out to the highlight. There we go. All right. So now everything's a wet, soggy mess. We're going to have to let it dry for a couple seconds. Let me grab some smaller brushes. It's a small painting, so we blocked it out with as big a brush as possible. And we're going to start looking for some bigger shapes. And I definitely say that's a darkish green right in here. Might mix a little purple into that, bluish. What's that? That's a black. I'm going to get more of the green. Let me get some more of this. There we go. All right, so that's a pretty intense dark greenish color. I don't think it's quite thick enough, but I'm really just going to come in. It's still awfully wet right here. I can probably get this side right over here. All right, so I'm just going to start building out some structure. And finding some of these shapes with a little contrast. It's still very wet right there. It's going to flow all over. I'm looking for the wet spots on the paper. I think I can grab it right in through here. I'm pushing it. Okay. There we go. Want to come up here. I'll get it right up here. And right up here. And right on the edge. Right on the edge. There we go. All right, how's it looking? It's starting to dry a little bit. I'm going to throw a bit of it right up in here. Bring it down. And this is all about looking for these weird shapes, right? And they're varying degrees of contrast and or subtle color changes. And again, if you're wanting those subtle color changes, you just have to lay it down and then add some water into it and get the fades to happen. Okay. We get a little sharper edge right down here. Actually, about right in through here. There we go. That's feeling better. And again, I'm trying to work around spots where it's still wet. It's not a big problem unless you're really looking for some sharp edges. All right. I want this right in through here. I want to get that shoulder right there. There we go. Come on, right there. I want a sharp shoulder. There we go. I'm going to get a little bigger brush. I'm going to glaze in a little more saturated color. More of that brown color. All right. So I'm going to look for this shape right here. It's going to come right down along here. And it's going to define that highlight right there, that light source. Okay. And throw a little more complex colors right there. Soften it out and soften this edge a little bit. Okay. Get a little more of the ultramarine blue. I'm going to come in, I'm going to define this edge right here. So look for these nice flowing, elongated shapes when you're painting reflections, and everything's going to read pretty nicely. I'm going to define that edge right there. Come around. Okay. Feather it out a little bit. There we go. I'm going to get a little more of that blue, that cerulean blue, a little dab of green right there. I'm going to intensify this right here and then feather it out, lighten it up a little bit. That's why I went too green. That's all right. We can fake it. There we go. That's working. Let's get that blue. That was definitely too green. Want more cerulean. There we go. I'm going to grab it right on this side like that. Feather that out just a little bit. All right, back to my green up here. And I'm going to throw it right in the center. I'm going to leave a little highlight right there. I'm going to throw it in the center. Come down right about to where that crossover line is. Okay. Now I'm just going to push it out towards the other shape. All right. I want more intense in the center and lightening up to the other shape right there. And I'm going to try to protect that little highlight right there. Come across right there. So we've just created that whole upper shoulder on the jug. And I'm going to do the same thing. There's kind of a color right here. I'm going to pull the same thing, but I'm going to leave that line. And then there's almost an edge right here and right there like that. So we'll just take that, pop the color in there, glaze it in there, feather it out. Feather it out. All right, cool. And I'm going to change and get a little more of the yellow ochre, mix it into the color up here, just for this color shift right there. Okay, and feather it out. Okay. How's it looking? Everything's very wet. Get some Meridian again. And I want to just hit this right here. All right, that's just for a little more contrast for that highlight right there. I'm going to throw a little more of it right on this one, right up here, and right along this edge, right back here. This is too wet to do anything with, so I'm just going to pop a little more contrast in various spots. And switching back over to a smaller brush, I'm going to get some of these browns. While that's all drying, I got plenty of time so far. All right, so let's work on our rope. A little dry. I mean, I have pigment in my brush, but it's it's not a sopping wet amount, so it's kind of almost a dry brush stroke right here. It's kind of got some crunch to it. So we're just going to define the strands in the rope. I'm going to get more of that not burnt, yellow ochre, a little more of a yellow ochre color. And I'm going to get this color right in through here. I'm just glazing some intensities into it right there. So that's stage two. We've found the big shapes. We're starting to get some form and some structure to it. And as soon as all this starts to dry, we start mixing in and finding our thicker colors. I'm going to get some of this. I think that's the flat black. I'm going to get some of the Viridian into it and a little more of this green right there. All right. Coffee, I'm starting to work into a milk consistency. And I can get in here on the bottom and we can really start popping in the contrast and the structure in stage three, right down here. All right. And I'm just going to block it in. Again, elongated, fairly sharp shapes. You're going to start reading as a reflective material. All right. So a little more contrast over here. This is a thinner version of that color. Okay, we just pop it right there. Thin it out, feather it out a little bit. And I need to glaze. I'm going to glaze a little more of this, a little more of a greenish right in through here. Just bring that down. We're trying to actually suggest that back side of the glass. Right back there. I'm going to come right along here. There's a bluish edge, and then we've got a good bluish edge right there. There's this nice, I'm just going to kind of crunch it in, kind of an irregular shape right along this side, right down here to this. We'll define that edge. I'm going to just feather it just a little bit, just water right there. Just soften it up a little bit. I want the pattern to emerge. And the same thing's happening right over here, right up here. I'm going to throw it in. There's that shape right there. I'm going to feather it just a little bit right at the top. And then I'm going to pull it right along this edge again, just to be a little darker. Coming down into this shape, feathering it out. There's even a little more of a glaze of it right in through here. All right. Perfect. And a little bit right over here as well. Sorry. Get a little more pigment in here. All right, I'm going to throw a little more of this cerulean, get a mixture of it, and I'm going to hit it right in this spot right there. I'm going to try to protect that little highlight right there. And I'm going to feather it out to that shape right up there. Cool. And I got another shape happening. I can kind of pick that out. I could almost come around here and we'll just drop in that little highlight right there as well. It's not perfect to the shape in the photo, but I think it'll read okay. All right, now this whole area still needs more color. Let's get a little darker. There we go. Go back to my bigger brush. I'm going to glaze in a little more color here. Again, it's the saturation, it's the contrast. All of those things are going to make this read really nicely. I need to get it pulled up here as well. Right on the bottom side of that rope. There we go. Right there. How's it looking on screen? Looks pretty good. Okay, so that's drying. That's all very wet. Yeah, I'm going to come back right up here to the top. I'm going to get a really thick mixture. Let me get some of that Viridian again mixed in here. Again, milk consistency, pretty thick consistency. I'm going to go ahead and paint that top edge. All right, so now I'm drawing. All right, this is just simply drawing in some of the structure. If I can get it to work right. All right, there we go. Right, like that. Then the next row, pull it across, comes out and around, back down and around like that. We'll get this side. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. That's still very wet there. I might be able to do something right over here. And I'm just bouncing around, painting where I can, where it's dry enough to paint. Okay. We're at that stage where we're going to add all the little definition and pops of contrast and highlight that's going to make this really start standing out. So we've done all the blocking. And hopefully this should all start to come together because I know we're starting to run out of time already. All right. And a little dry brush on that again. That's just loose textural marks right there. All right, so this is going to come across. It's okay if it's a little damp. And it's that dark blackish bluish color. It's going to come right along up here, right over here like that. Right there. And it kind of crosses the that visual separation right there. This side's very dark. I can get this to read right. There we go. Okay, how's it looking? It's very dark. I need to pull that darkness on down. I need to pull it out a little bit. Again, I'm trying to check my symmetry. Symmetry looks pretty good, doesn't it? All right, and I'm just going to throw a few streaks of some dry brush. Let me get some of this green. I'm going to get my bigger brush. All right, I'm going to throw a little dry brush in here. Okay, just almost for a surface quality to it. So I want some of that crunch right over here as well. There we go. I'm going to get a little darker color. And I'll do it right. Oh, how damp is it? Throw a little bit of it right there as well. All right, and then I'm going to get that blue again. So what have we worked with? Some browns, some yellow ochres, and blues and greens, right? It's not a huge value or hue range, but there we go. I'm just drop in some of that blue. I'm going to put some of that blue on this side as well, right up there like that. And phase in just a little more. And if you notice, I'm making marks in the direction of the jug. A little more glaze there. Feather it out. Knock back. I'm just knocking back some of the highlights there. So, and switching back over, really dark color, little green in it, thick consistency. And I'm going to hit this edge right here. Maybe if I get enough pigment in my brush. There we go. Now I'm exaggerating that. All right. Mainly, I want that highlight to pop right there. All right. And this still is not dense enough, so I'm going to glaze in a little more color on that. Pull a little bit of it up right on this side. Want to make this a little more exaggerated. Feather it out. There we go. And even a little more on this side. All right, now let me get the greenish color. And we're going to pull it out on the bottom. Get our shadow built a little better. And feather it out. And we have a bottle. There we go. How's that look? Does that work? Close enough? I think this side still needs a little smidge more color. I'm going to mix up that green. I'm going to glaze a little more on this side. We'll pull it on over this way too. There. Oh, did I spill it right there? All right. Anyway, that's the drill. You're going to try working with symmetry and reflections. I will. There we go. And just remember, color is fugitive. It goes everywhere. So now if I wanted to, and if I had my colors mixed up or had my other palette with white in it, I could maybe come in and drop in a couple more highlights. But actually, I just seen something I missed. What am I doing? I'm doing good. Get a little more water there. All right. I think this side right here is just a little low. All right, that's a watercolor demo of reflections and symmetry that I work with. This is an exercise I give my students every year with my Intro to Watercolor class. It builds skills mainly to draw symmetry and then to be able to add the colors and control the states and stages of watercolor, develop an ability for structure and saturation, just so you don't wind up with a big fuzzy mess at the end of the process. So give this a try, practice it, do it many times, and you're going to develop those skills. You'll be a master at this before you know it. Hey, I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, please give me a like and a subscribe and share this out to any friends that you know would be interested in starting a watercolor journey. Head over to Gumroad. I have 2 digital products that'll take you from beginner to intermediate watercolor proficiency. Head over to Patreon and give me a $5 a month membership if you think I'm doing anything on this channel that's worth a hoot.
And I have a bunch of affiliate links in the video description that if you click on it, you head over to Amazon and buy anything, I get a small commission. And I do have a lot of free downloads on my website. That link's in the description as well. Hey, thanks for watching, and I do hope you practice this and have a lot of fun doing it. See you in the next video.